Hi, I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson, and I'm here to bring you a review of the major motion picture Captain Marvel. Higher, further, faster, more! And don't worry, this review is going to be spoiler-free, but if you are looking for spoilers and podcasts and insights and articles and cool videos just like this, don't forget to go and check out majorspoilers.com, the comic book website where we love comics, and we know that you do too. We have a ton of amazing things over there. All right. Marvel has made almost 20 movies in their Marvel Studios cinematic universe, and they finally deigned a woman worthy of putting on screen in a lead role, and it was Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel. I'm gonna let you know my bias right off the top. Carol Danvers is not one of my favorite Marvel characters. I don't have any huge issues with her. She's just not one of those characters that sings to my soul the way some of other characters have. But that's okay because Marvel Studios has done a really great job over the years of taking characters that we don't know that much about, maybe aren't considered A-list characters, which if you listen to the Major Spoilers podcast, you know we don't really believe in, and telling a fabulous story with them. And in a post-Marvel now world, especially with Kelly Sue DeConnick picking up the run, Captain Marvel has really become an A-lister, so I thought she was a good choice for the movie. I want to say right off the bat, it's a classic Marvel MCU origin. If you have seen Iron Man, if you have seen Guardians of the Galaxy, if you have seen Ant-Man, you kind of know in broad strokes at least the structure that this movie follows. And Captain Marvel doesn't really sway from that in the way that Black Panther had a very unique voice, a very strong perspective and a point of view, but basically beat for beat is an MCU origin. That's what Captain Marvel is, except it's a lot more cosmic-y than we got in Wakanda last year. But in spite of that, I think they do an excellent job condensing down Carol's personality. Carol is a character who can sometimes be abrasive, she can sometimes be called a lot. That's why they made her the villain of Civil War II. She kind of went against Iron Man in that. And they do an excellent job at showing you why these harder edges of her personality occurred. They really earn her badass hard edge moments. And the way that they do that through the use of time and an interesting narrative flashback structure, you really understand why Carol is the way she is, where she's coming from, and how incredible it is that she trusts Nick Fury at all by the time she meets him in the movie. The movie was touted originally as a period piece. Yes and no. A good chunk of the movie does happen in space, as one would expect from a Captain Marvel kind of Kree story. But the stuff that's on Earth, maybe it's because the 90s is very in right now, doesn't feel as retro throwbacky as I was really expecting it to. The blockbuster joke is really great. But the Top Gun references are stamped down more than I expected, except for the name of Goose. Now, a lot of people were really excited when the orange cat showed up. I know I was really excited because I have an orange cat who's wandering under the camera right now. But Chewie is traditionally the name of Carol's cat, and instead they changed it to Goose, which, you know, obviously, again, Top Gun reference. I want to say that Goose is not Chewie as we know him in the comics. Goose does a lot of really interesting things. Goose gets a lot of screen time. It's kind of the Nick Fury and Goose buddy comedy for a couple scenes there. And I think the way they used him was really intelligent and elevated the idea above, well, the internet loves cats, so we're throwing in cat. Speaking of Nick Fury, I didn't know how on board I was going to be about including him in this movie. I think this is one of Samuel L. Jackson's best performance as the character. I would put it up next to his work in Winter Soldier. That's my favorite portrayal of Nick Fury, is that movie. You really like with Carol where you get to see how her personality has become what it is when the movie starts. With Fury, you kind of get to look back at who he was before he became the man who founded the Avengers Initiative, who we saw in the end of Iron Man 1. You get to see a more innocent and, dare I say, fun-loving version of the character, and you get to see Sam Jackson do a lot of acting that you're not used to seeing in the part. So I actually found him really, really, really delightful. I liked him a lot more than Jude Law's character. I'm not going to say much about Jude Law. He's a great actor who gave a great performance. A lot of the merchandise and toys have given away some important things about him. So Jude Law's there and he's great. Ben Mendelsohn is also there. I love Ben Mendelsohn. I think he's a fabulous actor. You get to hear him do some really, really cool dialogue work. And his character becomes part of a really important plot twist that happens about half or 3/4 of the way through the movie. It's driven by his narrative and his relationship as it blooms and grows and develops and changes with Carol. once you start watching the movie, you can kind of see the change coming. I don't think that makes it any less interesting. It's not a way and a point of view that we are used to seeing from the Marvel comics and their takes on these types of characters. So I enjoyed seeing it in the movie, and I enjoyed having to watch Carol and Nick Fury and Maria Rambeau have to pivot around that. Maria Rambeau is secretly my favorite part of the movie. I am very sad to say that I didn't know who the actress was going into the movie, but I just want to say that Lashana Lynch, you killed it. I secretly think she's the best part of the movie. And if you are fans of the comics, you know that Monica Rambeau is actually the very first female Captain Marvel. And I think that that could have really interesting repercussions when we get Carol back in the Avengers current timeline franchise. Overall, structure of the movie is what you expect. There's a great big fight in space. That's really awesome. The cast does a good job. The story is a classic superhero story, and I'm not going to spoil the after the credit scenes. I will say there's a before the movie starts, like a pre-credits moment that's really, really awesome and will kind of get your emotions going as you head into this movie. There are a couple different after the credit scenes, so stick around all the way to the end. I actually think the one at the very end is not as good as the singer that we kind of get after the big animated credits. That, as has become the tradition leading into Avengers movie, does tie directly into Endgame. So if you are wondering how Carol's going to be involved, we kind of see it. Just like we saw this scene that felt very much lifted from Infinity War with Bucky and Ant-Man and all of that. So if you're looking for the Avengers tie-ins, they're definitely there. My main criticism of the movie is that it completely destroys the Marvel timeline and continuity, but it's not the first MCU film that does that. The one that's actually most egregious about that is Spider-Man Homecoming. So if you are okay with building your own continuity and working with your own headcanon, I think you'll have a really, really good time in this movie. I wish this movie had come in phase 1. It was very well handled. It was very well done. I don't see in this movie why we needed to wait almost 20 movies to get to Carol. I think we could have done this in phase 1 or even in phase 2, and it would have been even more impactful because we would have had that level of representation earlier when it would have felt more exciting and less like the status quo and less like the thing that we have to do. Brie Larson, I think, is here to stay. I think we're going to see a lot more of her, particularly because the reaction to her seems super positive. So I am very pro Captain Marvel. I think it opens up the universe in an interesting way, and I'm really glad that we're finally getting around to this movie, but I think we could have used it earlier. If you enjoyed this review, don't forget to visit majorspoilers.com, the comic book website where we love comics, and we know that you do too. And after the film drops on Friday, you know there's going to be all kinds of cool articles and discussions and podcasts where we're going to be talking in depth about Captain Marvel. Go down to the comment section, let us know your thoughts, click subscribe. I have been Ashley Victoria Robinson. Be safe and make good choices!